to our third lesson, drawing water and clouds. I'm here at Iona Beach out near the airport in Vancouver, and as you can see, there are no clouds in the sky. It's a very hot day today. So let's head back to my studio for a little while. We'll do some practice drawing, and the tide's out here still, so we'll come back in a bit and hopefully there'll be some clouds and the water will be closer in, so we can draw some of the ripples and things. Okay, so we'll be back here soon. Here we are at my home studio in Richmond. It's actually my living room. My art studio is in the living room, which is great because I walk in the door and I just want to sit down and draw. So let's take a few minutes to focus on drawing clouds, how to draw clouds. And then when we're done here, hopefully there'll be some clouds in the sky when we go back out to our location. So let's try making clouds a couple different ways. We'll start with the gray paper, and let's play around with the black and white charcoal. You also need an eraser and your blending stomps. And then when we're done, we'll try clouds on white paper with our pencils. But we'll start here. So we're going to make the top outline of our clouds. And you're kind of doing a little contour line drawing around the top edge of that cloud. And realizing that clouds are not always going to stay in the same place, and so you may need to invent a little bit along the way. The bottoms of the clouds are usually flatter, and we also know that there are different kinds of clouds. There's higher cumulus clouds, and there's those really kind of almost transparent clouds that look more like lines. These ones we're going to do those puffy clouds that we see on a nice summer day. Let's do another one over here, and maybe a little further off in the distance so it's a little smaller. And let's throw another random cloud in here. So you can make your own kind of random shapes on your page to create clouds. Then we're going to take our white, we're going to go down from that top edge and pull the white from the edge down the cloud. You'll notice I'm going a few different directions here to try to get that, get the white a little thicker in there. So I went side to side, now I'm going around in circles so the cloud looks nice and fluffy. And I'm even going to pull it, pressing a little bit lighter onto that bottom edge. Okay, so I'm going to turn the video off, and you can go ahead and do that on two more little clouds. Okay, so I did the white on all the little clouds, and I'm keeping it rough at this point. I'm going to use my blending stomp later, but for now I'm just this is my starting place. Then I'm going to take my black, I'm going to press very, very lightly. I'm going to kind of hatch in some darker values. So here I am hatching them in. Hatching just means I'm going like this, and then you can hatch the different directions to make it darker. I'm just kind of hatching in some darker colors into the clouds, pressing very lightly. I'm not going all the way up to the top edge, but I'm also letting it be surprising. And if you can actually see some clouds, you can see where it's light and dark. We're just using our imagination here. You can get quite dark along the bottom. And the darkness has random patterns within the cloud as well. Then I'm going to take a smudging tool, a blending tool, and I'm using a circular motion to blend that into the white. Then I'm going to go back in with my white, and I'm really going to find some light parts. I'm going to make them as light as I can, so there are little parts along the edge here, and sometimes inside the cloud it's really light. Sometimes there's a little bit of a light part on the bottom of the cloud. Sometimes they call it the silver lining. Then I'm going to go back in with my black charcoal, and I'm going to find a value that's darker than this value. And then I'm going to hold it like this and try to go sideways so I avoid some of those stripy lines. And I'm allowing it to kind of be messy, and I'm kind of following some of these dark shapes that I have drawn in already. And I'm going underneath them and on the side of them, those dark shapes that I've drawn in. I'm really going to go dark along the bottom here. Notice how I let it have a little bit of a surprising little lift right there. Okay, then I'm going to take my blending tool and I'm going to go gently in circles again, rubbing, blending it in. And I still have some of the black on the tool here, so I'm just going to throw some of that randomly. I'm going to grab some more in some spots up here. And then I'm going to go ahead and do something similar with these two clouds, and then we'll try with paper and you can see which way you like better. Okay, so there's 3 clouds, and just out of context like that, they look a little bit strange, but once you draw in your horizon line, and let's say we're going to have some water under here, and say there was some mountains going on, then all of a sudden the overall composition starts to make visual sense. Anyway, that's one way to do clouds. The charcoal is a bit hard for this paper, but it does give you a chance to play around with the black and the white. So now let's try clouds on white paper, which is what we're going to do when we go back out to our seascape and put clouds in the sky. Okay, when you're drawing clouds in the sky on white, generally the value of the sky is darker than the clouds. So we're going to start by just same like we did with the white charcoal. We're going to do an outline of our cloud with a pencil. But now we want to darken the value of the sky behind it. So I'm taking my TV, I'm holding it underneath, and I'm taking that value right up to the edge of the cloud. It makes the cloud pop. All of a sudden, you have a white cloud against a darker sky, a blue sky. Okay, so I layered a few medium values into the sky, and I'm going to blend it. I've got a pretty rough table underneath me, so some of the texture of the table is coming into my drawing. If you want a really nice smooth look for your sky, it's good to put a few layers of paper underneath so you have smooth, like kind of a cushion underneath, and then you don't pick up all the textures with what's underneath. But I needed to tape mine down, so I just left it like that. Okay, now I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to go back into where some of that outline that I drew earlier for the top edge of the cloud. And I'm going to rough it up a little bit, soften it a little bit, and pull the eraser into that sky that I just drew. I'm creating the top edge of the cloud. There's a few places where like the wind has caught it and it kind of lifts maybe a little bit. I'll make it a little more poofy up here because I think I like a more kind of random shape. Okay, so I have the first step. Then I'm going to take my 2B pencil and I'm going to find some of the medium values inside the cloud. Now, when you're actually looking at a cloud, or if you can find, maybe you have a calendar picture that you like with clouds on it, or even on the internet, you can find pictures of clouds, and if you're actually looking at a cloud, you can see where there's areas that are a little bit darker, a little bit lighter, and you can see there's areas where it's actually quite dark. I'm just kind of going to layer those different values in. So, and I can always pull it out, pull the value out with an eraser if I think I've done too much. Okay, so I'm going to soften those. Then I'm going to go back in and use my 5B pencil and find some darker values within these medium values. I'm using my pencil in a kind of a circular way from the side, so I want to create kind of softer blended marks instead of lines. And I'm letting it get quite dark down along this edge. I'm moving my pencil in a few different directions down there. And again, you can see how I'm holding it from the side. I'm finding that dark edge in there. I'm pulling that up a little bit using the side of my pencil that's going in different directions. And I'm changing the weight. Sometimes I'm pressing hard, I'm getting a darker value, and then I lighten up on how I'm holding the pencil. I let it be a little bit of a lighter mark. And I'll throw a little bit of a lighter mark in there, and I'll go back to pressing hard down with the pencil on this edge. Let it go back into there. Now I'm pressing lighter with it. It's almost like my pencil is dancing. It's going, stepping hard and then treading lightly. And lightly, harder. Finding shapes within the shapes of the cloud. Clouds are all about value, dark against light. And I need to go back and create that dark edge on the bottom of my cloud again, quite dark. And I'm moving my pencil still multiple directions. I'm blending it up so it's not a big hard line and bumping into a white line, but it has a little bit of a blend. There's a bit of a medium value before it gets light. I could leave it rough like that, or I could go in and smooth it a little bit with my finger or the blending stomp. But I kind of like it a little bit rougher. Now I'm going to also, where it's really light up in there, I'm just going to find a few little random spots to throw in some little tiny marks. So it looks like the cloud is ephemeral. There we go. If I want this edge to show up more, I can darken my sky a little bit in some spots. And then the cloud all of a sudden shows up whiter. There you go. That's making clouds. Yeah, I don't have my viewfinders today, but I want to show you how you can use your hand. So what I'm doing here is trying to create a square with my hands, and that's going to be my viewfinder. So I'm going to find where is the horizon line inside my little square. If I want to make more of a rectangle, I can move my hands further apart to find that view. So I'm going to try to find a few interesting views and take a picture. I'm trying to find a nice composition. And then I'm going to start by framing it on my page. And I don't have a ruler, so I'm just going to eyeball a frame that's a similar to shape to what I made with my hands. So it was about like that. I notice this corner is a little bit further up, so I'm just going to adjust that. So remember, when you're eyeballing, you can always erase, go back in, fix things. There we go. Oh, and I can hear the sound of the waves. It's beautiful. Okay, so I want to find the edge of my basic lines. So I'm looking for where the horizon line is, and it's about a third down the page, right about here. So make my horizon line. And then where the water meets the grass or the sand is right about here. And that's going to change as I'm drawing because the tide is coming in. So it's going to move closer as we go. So I'm just going to kind of indicate it right here. Okay, then I'm going to draw the mountains that I see in the background. And it's a hazy day, so they're quite soft in an atmospheric perspective off in the distance there. And there's a little hill that comes in front of this one. I'm going to keep that quite simple for now. I want to show a little bit of where the edge of the water is coming in. And it has a few little waves like that. So there's my basic lines. Okay, for drawing waves, you want to practice this kind of technique with your pencil. I'm just using it on the side and I'm changing the thickness depending on which direction I turn my pencil. So I have a thick line and it switches to a thin line. Here's the ice cream. And thick line, thin line, thick line, thin line. So you want to try to find that kind of a line in your water. So I'm going to capture a wave as it's coming in. So I'm just going to take the side of my pencil. I'm going to follow the way it comes in. And I'm just going to vary the thickness of that line. And I'm going to let it kind of disappear. And then there's another one behind it. And that line varies in thickness. I'm going to let that one disappear earlier. And another one coming in here. And I'm going to let that one vary in size. It's going to go further across the page. These are quite thick lines. I'm going to make them thicker in some spots. Keep that smooth edge. And there comes, some of them come over here. And I'm going to go right off the page a little bit. I can erase that later. Bring this one through here. Okay, then I'm going to keep going, but they're going to be thinner as I go back. And then I'm going to start another one right about here, and it's thinner. And more waves. The line, I'm still varying it, but it's thinner, and I'm going to bring some in from this side. Okay, then I just want to make some lines that go straight across. And what I'm doing is I'm varying them. So sometimes I'm pressing down and sometimes I'm lifting up. I'm still using the side of my pencil and I'm varying the size of that line sometimes. But it's thinner lines than what I have here, and I'm just going across the middle there. Okay. And then for the back as I get further back, those lines get more choppy, so they're shorter. I'm still using the end side of my pencil, but instead of creating a line, I'm creating little marks. And as I get way into the back, I'm going to switch to the tip of my pencil and just do little tiny, almost like dots. So thicker lines in the front, medium-sized lines. These ones are following the edge of the shore. These ones are going horizontal, and these ones are also horizontal, but they're more broken. And as I get further back, I'm using the tip of my pencil, and the little marks get smaller. Okay, now I want to go from the horizontal to this curved edge here. So these lines are slowly going to move onto that angle. So here comes this wave, and it's going to go like that. And I'm going to pick it up here with another one that goes and disappears into that one. This one is going to come through here. Then we have this one through here. And again, they're kind of flowing into each other. They're getting smaller as they go further back. Okay. So as the wave is coming in, it actually has a little bit of a foamy crust on some parts of it. So I'm going to draw that little edge in a really rough kind of way on top of some of these lines that I just drew. And there's another foamy crust, crusting on top. And I'm just kind of making my pencil go in interesting ways, scribbly, to create the foam part on that wave. And it's not on every wave. And here I'm going to move it to the bottom of the line. So over here I did it on the top of my line. I'm going to move that foamy part where the wave starts to break up and turn into that little white foamy part. Put it on the bottom of the line. And it's not happening everywhere. Sometimes on the top, sometimes on the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to take some tiny marks in this direction across the waves. Tiny marks going this way on the waves. And more little marks into here. Some of these waves, I'm going to take my pencil and make really dark on the bottom. Just kind of a this kind of movement. Now, this is quite not much light or shadow going on in this water, so I'm going to try to make some of this water back here darker. In the background, it's darker. And I'm realizing as this water comes in that I need to have a lot more horizontal kind of little ticks everywhere. I'm going to make those quite dark actually. Okay, so I did those little marks into the background, and then I added some value into the mountains. Okay, now let's draw our cloud. So I'm going to imagine there's a cloud here. I don't actually see any clouds, so I'm going to just draw the shape of some kind of random cloud. A little bit flatter on the bottom. And let's say there's another one off in the distance here. And we'll do one more, even smaller. Interesting shaped cloud. Okay, then, like we did in my studio, we're going to make a blue sky around the clouds. Now you want to make sure that it's lighter than the mountains. So what I'm seeing right now is my blue sky is the same value as my mountains. So I'm going to go back in, I'm going to darken my mountain in the spots, especially up on that edge where it meets the sky. Notice I'm going right up the edge of the page because I'm going to go back in and darken the edge. So I'm going to go darken the edge of my mountain again. Pull that darkness value down towards the water. Letting there be a few different values back there. And I'm just going to use my finger to soften the sky. Okay. And darken the horizon line. Now I'm going to go and add some darker spots in my imaginary clouds. I'm using the side of my pencil, and the bottom part of my clouds are quite dark. And some random medium values, and then dark values within, and a few little marks to go all the way up. And I'm not looking at any clouds, so I'm just imagining these clouds. And just for fun, because I see these kind of streaky clouds in the sky, I'm going to pull my eraser through to create some of those clouds as well that I can see. And just lightly maybe go around some of those edges that I've created with my eraser to show some of those light clouds even more kind of in the background. Okay, wow, the water's coming up fast here. Okay, so here I have an interesting shoreline full of seaweed and stuff. So I'm just going to draw some of that in with some rocks. I think I have to go fast before the tide comes in to get me. Little rocks and stuff on that edge. I'm going to dot some of them in with some rocks. Sometimes to create a rock, do a little shadow and then make a shape on top, do some dots. And I'm also going to add some of this grass that I see here. And I'm going to go like this because it's quite thick seagrass. And I'm going to go right off the page. There's taller stuff here. And then as it goes further out, I'm going to make shorter lines. It comes further out into the water. And then there are tiny ones, and right in front of me are a few more little seagrasses. There we go. I'm going to erase around the edge. Okay, a very sketchy, very quick drawing. I think I need to make that horizon line darker and clearer. Maybe the edge of these a little darker and clearer. They are quite hazy in the background, so I don't want to do too much. Maybe I can darken some of these grasses with, so I went like this, and then I'm going in and I'm darkening some of it. And rocks and stuff down here. I'll go in and darken as well. Some more. So where the water is and where the rocks are is maybe a little bit blurred, but there we go. I can also go in and take out some more white in the clouds if I want to, but there is, pull out some of that value in a few spots. Doesn't have to be everywhere. There we go. A quick sketch. If you look at my drawing that I did in Scotland, you can see I spent more time drawing the water there, so you can see how I created those lines. This one I had to do quickly because the water is coming up fast. I think I would create a few more, actually, waves that come in. So here's my drawing, and as I was sitting here, the tide moved in. It was way out there by those ducks, and now it's moved within 6 feet of my feet, and I think I better get out of here before I get wet. Okay, I moved out of the way, back onto the sand a bit more. I hope you had fun drawing the water and the clouds. It wasn't my best drawing, I don't think, but you know what, when you're drawing in the field, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you do a sketch and it's really quick because you're in a location or an environment, and you got to get out of there fast because the tide's coming in, or a wild animal is there, or your kids need you, or for whatever reason you only have a little window. And you're going to be okay with some drawings are excellent and some drawings end up being like sketchy and just kind of you learn something from doing it. If you have a look at my the drawing that I did in Scotland, you can see how I took a lot more detail drawing those waves as they curve around using that same sideways moving shifting line for creating the edges. And so try your own location. Maybe you have a photograph that you love and you can see where the dark and the light is in those waves and the thickness of the lines. In the foreground they're thicker, and as you move back they're more like little ticks. Anyway, we'll see you next class, and we'll be back at Denman and we'll be drawing fields and fences. See you then.